All right, greetings everyone. Thank you for joining us for Rabbit Roundup. My name is Andi Fouberg and I'm the president and CEO of the SDSU Alumni Association. And I am joined today, of course, by head coach of the Jackrabbit women's basketball team, Johnston. AJ, thank you for joining us. I'm going to turn the floor over to AJ shortly, but if you have questions for him, please feel free to submit those using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. Johnston is in his 21st season as head coach of the Jackrabbits and recently passed the 500 career wins, which now sits at 503, I think. He is SDSU's and the Summit League's all-time winningest women's basketball coach, leading his teams to 9 Summit League tournament titles, 6 regular season titles, and 14 postseason experiences. I could keep going, but no one, not even my dad, is tuned in to hear me talk today. So, Coach, thank you very much for joining us.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me. Welcome, everybody. This is a good way to stay connected, I think, to all of our good Jackrabbit fans out there, even though it's on a screen somewhere. Hopefully you're safe and comfortable. It's incredibly, difficult, challenging times for a lot of reasons for all of us. So I just want to wish you all the very best and hope you're doing good in your lives, your families, and people close to you are all, in a really good place too. Because we're on a screen right now, I'm just going to assume that if I say something kind of funny, that everybody is laughing on the other end and smiling. That's the beauty of being on a Zoom call. I can just picture, the crowd, however I would like to, and responding in a good way. But I'll do my best here to keep everybody engaged and moving along and make this a good period of time for us. Andi mentioned the 21st year here. Again, I just always want to try and say thanks to everybody. Part of, that longevity and being in connected to one place for this long a time, it certainly isn't just a choice on my part. Obviously, ours a family, Lori, my wife, and I. That's important to us to be connected, but to have that kind of longevity is certainly a shared experience. And for this to be positive, so many people outside of our program, many I'm sure of you that are tuning in and watching this, play an active role in those kind of longevity accomplishments as well. So we appreciate everybody out there that makes South Dakota State such a special place to work, a special place to really live, and in our case, grow our young family and have them be really connected to a wonderful university. So, I really believe that, whether it's the victories that were mentioned or just the number of years being here, obviously that's our family's thinking about that. We've been lucky that South Dakota State has allowed us to be here for that period of time. But bigger than that, there are a lot of people out there that make this a great place. And if it weren't a great place, you wouldn't see some of those things happen. So, whatever you're doing out there to make South Dakota State special, I'd like to just say thank you and hope you all feel really good about those things. They don't go unrecognized by me and many people in our department. So, we appreciate all you and continue to do what you're doing. Team-wise, it's been a great year. 11-2. We have had some great wins. I don't know. I haven't gone back and really looked at it, but beating 3 ranked teams, top 25 teams in the month of, November and December, that's pretty remarkable. Gonzaga continues to be ranked. They've got an exceptional team. That was a great win for us. Iowa State, an exceptional team. They just got back in the rankings after a big win at Baylor. Missouri State has kind of fluctuated a little bit, right around that kind of 22 to 27, 28 range. But those are great wins for our program, and those are great accomplishments for our team. We've got, I think, a really good team this year, and we wouldn't see those kind of results without having a really good team. But we're still a team, I think, that's learning how to be a great team. Even though we've been very good, I still think there's more that we can do to improve, whether it be on offense or defense. And I don't think that's anything to do with, COVID. I don't think it's anything to do with just not playing well. Quite honestly, when you look at our team, we're still a very either young or inexperienced team, however you want to word that. And what I mean is everybody playing together at the same time. When you look at our minutes, they are not getting gobbled up by players that all played that exact same role the last several years. Most of the players on our team are doing something very different. And then we have a lot of new faces playing with us. Sometimes I think for, again, mid-major programs or a program like South Dakota State, when you have this kind of success and really have those spectacular years, it's because you've had a core group of people that have played together for 2, 3, maybe even 4 years. And by the time they all get it together in that senior year, everything just clicks. Absolutely, some parts of that would be true with us, but we have a lot of new, I guess, pieces, if you want to use that word, but a lot of new players playing very different roles this year. And to have that kind of success says an awful lot about the team and what they've achieved so far. Peyton Burkhardt has been kind of a staple for us. Freshman year, played a really solid role. Sophomore, now she's in her junior year. What she's doing this year is somewhat, predictable, and that's kind of what you would have thought from Peyton. Really good. As much as Maya Selland, has been around, Maya's never been in this role where she's had to be the go-to player. She's been fantastic. So it's no surprise she's having this career or this kind of season. But she's finally healthy. She's finally able to play a lot of minutes consistently over a long period of time. She is finally, I would say, the kind of go-to player that every other team is keen on all the time. So absolutely no surprise her success, but it's a different role for her, and she's really embraced it and been fantastic. Tori Nelson, really good freshman year, but now people are keen on her. She's in a different role. Her expectations are different. So some familiar faces there, but different roles. Kylie Irwin's another one. She's always been someone that's defended really well and done a lot of little things, but this year she's scoring more. She's playing a lot more point guard position, something she's really not had to do a ton of in the past, but she's doing fantastic at it. Lindsay Thunick is a new starter. Haley Greer, even though she's a senior as a graduate transfer, completely new role for our team. And then our bench minutes are being gobbled up by people that really played either no role or a very small role in the past, either freshmen or some returners. So really, this is still what I would consider an inexperienced team, not in a negative way, but in a realistic way about what their roles are. We've seen someone like Reagan Nessheim come along from not playing in November to playing a lot at the end of December, and so I'm just using that as an example about this team is still growing. This team is still learning an awful lot. We as coaches, I think, are really learning how to best utilize everybody and where our strengths are and how we have to improve. So, I do believe that we have a chance to be a lot better as we go forward, not only this year, but in the next several years. But it's exciting to see that we can have success with who we are today too. And that's been really fun. So I'm really proud of the team, of where they're at and how they've come along. It's been a lot of fun working with this group. I do think they've got a lot of potential left inside them, and we'll see kind of how far we can take it. Some individual things, Maya Selland, as I mentioned before, has been fantastic. I think anybody that watches us knows the importance and value she brings to our team. Just being healthy has been such a great thing to see. Her talent and her skills are fun to watch, but as a coach, I don't mean this as a coaching thought, but I know every game it seemed like we played for the last couple of years, you're constantly thinking about, how much do we want to play Maya to try and give her a chance to play in the next game. It was just always, dealing with an injury. And just what a relief that is for anyone that can go out there and play free and not have to think so much about that part of her, season. So that's been great. And I'm happy for Maya. She's earned it, deserves it, and she's making the absolute most of it for sure, because she's having one of those elite years that's really, really hard to have. I really have been proud and impressed with Tylee too. She was pretty banged up early in the year. She didn't play that first game, and her minutes got bigger and bigger. It wasn't a basketball issue, just had an injury. And she has come back and really figured out how to be, I would consider, an impact player for us. She's always been really solid and always made plays, but this year she's doing even more. So it's fun to see her grow too as a senior and do the things that she's doing for us. And then there's a lot of other people too that are kind of plugging away and doing good things, but those two in particular have been, I would say, kind of the rocks of the team that have helped us have the kind of year we're having. Both Tylee and Maya are captains on the team. They've earned the respect of all of their teammates. They're a couple of our hardest workers. They are phenomenal students. They're great in our community and on campus. They are just great leaders, and we're lucky to have those two in our program. We do expect to get Callie Tyson back. If any of you are wondering out there, she's been recovering from her injury, very well. A lot of people have asked, is she ahead or behind? Remember, she had a knee injury last year, right before Christmas. Probably would have had surgery, first part of the 2020. We've had some players come back in, 8, 9 months. We've had some players come back in 16, 17 months. So Callie's somewhere in the middle of that. I'd say a pretty normal recovery. But that's been hard too with, COVID and just access to people and facilities. So she's really worked hard to be in this position. I don't know. I'm not going to guarantee she'll play this weekend, but I think we're getting that close. It wouldn't surprise me if she's able to play a few minutes this weekend. She has a couple productive practices and just feels good. That could be the case. If she doesn't, certainly could be next weekend. So there's no hard deadline, but I do think we're getting really close to having Callie back. And Callie was on track last year to being probably one of the best freshmen in our league. I know Tori ended up winning that Freshman Player of the Year award, but I certainly think Callie was on track too, based on what she was doing in her first part of her freshman year. So she'll be a great addition for our team coming back too. Not going to put too much pressure on her. She's got a lot to get better at, to just get comfortable with after being out that long. But she'll add to what we do for sure. Been really pleased with our freshmen. Mesa Mayim continues to add good minutes for us. Mesa, I think, is just scratching the surface on what she can do. She's actually a really good shooter, and as she gets confident, she'll be able to step out and play on the three-point line more. Good shot blocker, good rebounder. She's doing some good things for us. Maddie Vlaston has played really well. Maddie has shot the ball well finally after Christmas. Early on, she just wasn't making shots, but now she shot it really well here in our 4 conference games, so that's fun to see. I think our team needs that consistent shooting at the three-point line, and we believe Maddie will bring that. Emily Herzberg, we've used her, a little bit after Christmas, but Emily's not far from having a significant or a consistent role with us. She's a really good young player, and she brings a lot of athleticism and consistency to what we do. So I think everyone's going to be excited to see how she develops over the next few years too. And then Reagan, I know Reagan redshirted last year, but she's technically a freshman, and she's given us really good minutes here since the season has gone on. We like her athleticism. She's just a really good competitive personality out there. So as much as we see, Tylee and Maya as seniors doing great, it's fun to see that younger group coming along and playing really well for us too. So we'll kind of see how that goes, I guess, as we go forward. I would say some other things that I'm kind of noticing with the team as far as the COVID piece goes. It's been hard to kind of manage things, no doubt about it. I would be the first to say that. There's a lot of, just other protocols and things that have to happen. But at the same point, I really believe we're lucky to be playing right now, fortunate in a good way to be playing right now. If you asked our players, are they comfortable and are they having a fun experience? They would say yes. And I know that because I ask them that question a lot. It's just been great. Basketball is such a important part of their lives, and having a chance to play a sport that they love and be successful, not just with winning, but be great teammates, be connected to each other, share some of those experiences that we have, those memorable moments. It just brings a great sense of purpose and joy to their lives that if it were not happening, would leave a hole. And certainly they'd be able to go on if we didn't have it, but it wouldn't be the same. And so from just that experience, I appreciate the heck out of everything South Dakota State is doing to give our team a chance to play, and all the different efforts that our department, university have put forth to really make that happen. We recognize that and are really thankful for it. But our job is to create great experiences for young people at South Dakota State and make this a wonderful place. And basketball is a part of what they look towards every day. So we're really, pleased and happy that we've been able to have the kind of year that we've had. We'll have to stay flexible. We know that, things can change, but so far we haven't had too many distractions or problems with it. And I think we're all pretty grateful for that for sure. Some of our recruiting, a lot of people are asking about recruiting and how that's gone. Honestly, recruiting has gone really well. We haven't had a lot of, big setbacks or changes. We've been in what's called a dead period for a long period of time. So we can't go out and watch people play. young people can't come and visit campus and come to games and things. That's kind of what a dead period means. But we can still talk to people. We can still interact on the phone. We can still do Zoom calls. We can still have a lot of conversations and build relationships. The way things have gone now, we can watch almost every high school game we want to watch because they're all streamed, just like our games are streamed. So they're watching us, we're watching them. The only thing that we aren't getting is that face-to-face probably contact. Young people aren't able to come and visit face-to-face and watch games and meet people in that way. So that's probably the one piece that's a little bit harder. But I absolutely think everyone's going to continue to move forward. I really don't sense at all that the recruiting process is going to stop or slow down. I just think it'll continue to go forward in a positive way. So we're excited about where we're at with some of our young recruits who have committed, and I think we'll be in really good shape next year. The other thing I'll talk about real quick too, and I don't know if I have questions on it, but the NCAA has kind of come out with the idea that everybody on our team could have an extra year of eligibility. And, we're still kind of working through how all that will play out. The NCAA, other than saying we can have an extra year of eligibility for all of our players, seniors through freshmen, hasn't really provided a lot of guidance for how that'll impact scholarship limits and some of the other things that'll go into that for the next few years. But I would say now we've had a lot of conversations with our players about, what they'll do with that extra year and how that'll play out. I don't know that we'll go into great detail on that yet, just because there's some unanswered questions we have from how the NCAA is going to ask us to manage some of those things, especially the rosters and just numbers. But yeah, I would absolutely believe we'll have quite a few people that will want to play and want to be here for that extra year. And then I'm sure we might have some that want to move on because maybe their graduation plan is a little bit different. Maybe the career they're going into is going to be challenging to use that extra year. So we've had a lot of conversations with our players about those kind of topics. We feel like we've got a good handle on where everybody's at, and we're going to support our players the best way possible. So we'll know more as we go forward, and especially when the NCAA comes out on some more just kind of, I guess, rules, protocols for how we need to handle that. But that'll be a part of everybody's thought process, not just basketball, but all of our sports. I'm sure we'll have to consider that. And some of the people that you're watching right now, you might get a chance to watch for an extra year, and that'll be exciting. And we'll see how all of that part of it plays out. Looking forward to the conference season. We've had a good start to it. North Dakota this weekend, if you've been able to tune in, or maybe some of you have actually been able to get to Frost. North Dakota brings, I think, a really physical, competitive team. I think it should be a good weekend for us. North Dakota is just probably as physical as we are. So they're always a tough team for us to play against. The games always end up being, sometimes high possessions, unfortunately, too many fouls. We're going to work really hard to make sure that we don't get into that part of it. But they're always exciting, entertaining games because both styles are fairly similar. And so we're looking forward to having a couple of good games here in Frost Arena. I know it seems like it's early in the year, but I guess we're probably about 7 weeks away from the conference tournament. We're not looking past anything, but just a good reminder to all of this that this is going by quickly. And, we'll have to continue to play very well every single weekend because, whatever games you get, you got to make the most of them because none of us assume that we're going to play every team twice. I hope we do, but you just never know what's going to happen. So when we get chances to play, we need to make the absolute most of them because we are coming, whether we realize it or not, quickly towards the end of our regular conference season. And we're looking forward to trying to make the very most out of all of these games. So like I said, I think we're in a really good place. I feel good about kind of where the team is at. Looking forward to what we can still yet do, and just really excited about how things are going. So I think right now I'll probably turn it back to Andi, and there might be some questions or other things that she wants to do too.
Well, I don't know the answer to this, so can you see and hear me?
I can.
Excellent. Well, then maybe we're on a roll. So just a reminder for those of you watching, if you have questions you would like to ask Coach, please submit those using the Q&A feature at the bottom. You covered a number of the questions that were submitted in advance, but we'll go over a couple that are a little bit different. One is, we'll start with the question of what has changed the most in the game of women's basketball since you started coaching? And I don't know if you want to go back to the D2 days, because there's just a jump there, or even just the beginning of the Division I experience.
Yeah, no, I would say yes, the game has changed dramatically. I think some of the rules have changed things dramatically. The 3-point line moving back has changed the game. So that's opened the floor up and really probably changed how we look at offense, but also changed how we need to look at defense. When the 3-point line was closer, everything was just more compact. So how we guarded people, I thought, was set up for that. And now that it's more spread out, has changed how we have to defend people, quite honestly. So those kind of rule changes. I really like the more recent rule changes of the quarters, I think has been fantastic. Advancing the ball at the end of games has been fun. It's added a new dimension to it. So some of those rule changes, I think, have really enhanced the game, quite honestly. Um, as far as things that I noticed from the game that are more kind of general, um, I would say probably 7, 8 years ago, as we went to Division I guess I'm getting older now, probably 10 years ago, 12 years ago, the game was way more what I would consider physical on the perimeter then. Like we were able to just physically, move people around, and those things weren't called. I think now on the perimeter, the game is called much closer, and that's had to change how we have to defend people and guard the ball and guard cutters. On the flip side of that, I think inside, if you watch games, post play is way more physical now than it used to be. Too physical. I really feel like that part needs to change and get cleaned up. But those would be the things I would notice the most that have changed. But people are still people. Everybody's just as competitive. They want to win. All of those things, I think, are very much the same.
The next question is from Wally in Minnesota. You've been so successful over the years in recruiting great student athletes to SDSU. Without giving away any of your trade secrets, he'd like you to talk generally about how you and your staff determine which players you want to focus on. Do you prioritize best player available over scheme fit or vice versa? And how do you evaluate a player's development beyond high school?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I would say, kind of as I answer parts of it, the first thing we look for in recruiting is, who we're recruiting person-wise. Will they fit into, everything that we believe is important at South Dakota State as a teammate? So we really think about them and decide, hey, would this person be a great teammate for us? Because if they are, then they're going to be a great student. They're going to be a great community member. All of those things will fit. So that's always probably the first thing that we consider. Then we just look at their talent. Do they have the talent to play at our level? Yes, a little bit by position. That's certainly important. But I'd be the first to admit there are years where I look at our team and we either have a lot of one thing and not much of another, or the next year it could flip. Like right now, we don't have a lot of just true point guards. I'd be the first one to admit that. We can go back a few years ago when we had Macy and Maddie, and we had a bunch of players that could play the point. And I think that's always been the case at South Dakota State. So I think we're always looking at talent as opposed to the specific position. Now we have to be careful and be smart about that. But I always feel like great players can figure out how to play different spots. We're always looking for that general piece of talent. And then we use a lot of just homework. We watch people play a lot. You'd be amazed at how many games of these young people we watch, either online now or even in person in the past. But then we just have been around a long time here. So we can talk to a lot of coaches out there that either coach those athletes or maybe coach against them. And they know a lot of the behind the scenes things. And we just get some good information on who we think is really going to fit. But that's how we would approach it. And there's no doubt, I agree with the question. That's probably one of the most important things we do is finding the right people to begin with. And our staff has been fantastic at that.
So on that front, what would you tell, and you recruit well out, right? So I think there was an offer made to someone who's going to graduate in 2024, and I can't even keep track of what year it is this year because I think we're still in 2020 a little bit, right? But what do you tell a middle school girl whose dream is to play for the Jackrabbits?
Well, we don't recruit middle school. That's
well,
right.
I'm not saying that. What's your advice?
But a young person. Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, because we have a lot of people that come to camps, and you'd be surprised in the summer at young people how many people come up, or young girls come up and say, hey, I want to play for the Jackrabbits someday. So that's still a very common question. One of the things I try and impress upon them is just how much time our players put into their game. That's always, the hard thing. And Lori, we have our young kids, a third grader, second grader, and kindergartner. So not quite, but they're starting to think about that. Our son is, pretty determined that he's going to play both, in the NFL and in the NBA. And he's got his life pretty much figured out. And he's probably young enough where we're not quite ready to burst, that bubble, how easy that's going to be for him. But at some point, we're going to have to say, well, listen, whatever it is you want to do, let's make sure you understand what it's going to take to be successful. And that'd be basketball or anything. But I think people are always kind of overwhelmed at how much time our players put into their game, even before they get to South Dakota State. And then once they're here, Maya, to watch Maya play, it looks like it's just easy for her. And some things are, but she works so hard and puts so much time into making that look easy. And I just think most, young people don't understand what that time commitment is. And that's probably the thing we try and talk most about.
Checking out some of the questions that have come in. Another question is kind of about transfer rules. And specifically, transfer rules have changed quite a bit over the last few years. You use that to your advantage in bringing in Haley Greer to the team. Talk a little bit about that process and bringing in a player with previous college experience to the team, because you haven't really done that, not much of it anyway.
Yeah, we haven't, and we'll look at that probably more closely going forward. I don't think we'll completely change, and that will never be our primary way of recruiting, but we're going to make sure that we have that ability. So the NCAA is going to change our rules in basketball. This will be true in men's basketball too, but in the past, if somebody transferred, they had to sit out for a year before they could play. And so Haley Greer was an exception because she graduated from Colgate. So she finished her undergraduate degree, and there was that exception that if you graduated, you could transfer and play right away. And so that's why Haley was able to play. Now, just this past winter, they're changing that rule for basketball. So now, whether you've graduated or not, you can transfer and play as long as that's the first time you've transferred. So I think in the next, 24 months, there are going to be a lot of people that transfer because now they feel like I don't have to sit out. I can just go somewhere else and play. And so if we're not, in that world, or at least thinking about that, we're going to miss some good opportunities, I think. But at the same time, our commitment is to the young people we have in our program, and how can we help them develop and help them achieve their dreams. And I just never want to be in a position where, it becomes very transactional. We're just bringing somebody in for 9 months. They go their way, we go our way. I don't feel like that's probably our first, goal or mission, but I'm not going to sit here and say that there won't be some of those situations. But I just really want to make sure we still do things the way that we can feel like we're moving our overall kind of program forward. But that new transfer rule will change things. There'll be quite a few more transfers, I think, and we'll have to be in that world some.
Yeah, it shifts your culture quite a bit too, right? Like, as you said.
It can, it just, whether you're recruiting a going to be freshman or you're recruiting a going to be junior or senior, we only have, 14 or 15 people on the team. And so every personality impacts our team personality. There's not like everything can just get drowned out. And so they have to be great fits, and that doesn't mean perfect. Great fits, just to me, the biggest part of that is someone who's going to care about the person next to them. That's one of the biggest parts to being a great fit. There is no other, qualities or anything. But will you care about people that are around you? Will you put them and their well-being at the same level as your own well-being and thoughts? And as long as we can do that, I think it'll all work out.
We have a question from Dwayne. What will you do though with those teams that have a taller or quicker players in the middle? So down low, will Mesa be able to be effective this year in some of those situations? We've seen some of that already, but kind of what's your game plan as you move through?
Yep. We talk a lot about that as a staff. Peyton is, starting for us at the 5. She's a 5'10", 5'11", post player. So defensively, she's undersized against those players. We have to do a better job of finding ways to help her feel confident and kind of support her. And then we also have to defend that position as a group, which we've done, really for many years. People still go back and talk about that 2008, 2009 team, how good that team was. I always remind people they didn't have a starter on that team that was over 6 foot tall. That was a bunch of 6 foot, 5'11" forwards that obviously were very good players, but they also figured out how to defend as a team. And I think that's an area with us inside, we can continue to do that more as a team. And we're still kind of tinkering a little bit, and I think we'll be able to move that forward. But, I don't see all of a sudden, we're all of a sudden going to have in the next 6 weeks, someone grow 5 inches and just all of a sudden be able to do that on their own, like a Clarissa Ober. People remember her, for instance. We didn't think at all about defending the post with Clarissa because she could just do it. And so we've got to find a way to help her. So we'll do some more double teaming. We'll do some more fronting. We'll probably use a variety of things and just try and keep teams off balance with that position. But that's an area we have to improve at.
We have a question from Gary in the Twin Cities area, and he's asking about the competition as St. Thomas comes into the league. So kind of what will that change? Any recruiting strategies for you in that area?
I need to preface this because I'm a Gustavus grad. So there's 2 levels here that I need to think about. An old MIAC rivalry that I'll have to get past the bitterness of, and then also thinking about them as a Summit League rival. So I'll just try and talk about it from the Summit League. And
I mean, it's still rivalry, right? Like maybe not so bitter, but
Yeah. Well, I'll leave my personal feelings about the Tommies out on this one. I think they're a really good addition. I think they have a chance to be a really good Division I program very quickly. I really feel that way. Minnesota has one Division I basketball program in the state right now. And many of us have benefited from recruiting Minnesota for several years. And now we're going to provide another, Division I place for those people to stay home. I don't know that I could say some of our players may not have come here, but it would have been, an interesting option for some of our great Minnesota players to think, geez, I could play right here, especially when you're talking about young people that live in that Twin Cities area. So I think they have the potential to be outstanding in a very quick order. Now, will they do all the infrastructure things it takes to be successful? Those things I couldn't comment on. But just in terms of access to players, which is really what kind of makes it all go, they will be in as good a position as any school in our league very quickly. So great addition. And everything I just said, I don't fear that. I just think it brings in a quality opponent, somebody that can be really good. And the better our league is, the better we all are. So, I don't look at that as a negative in terms of competition. I look at that as a positive. But I would think they'll be, good quickly, especially in the sports of basketball. And I think they kind of add to that profile. So there's still, plenty of people around, plenty of women's basketball players that are looking for something different than what St. Thomas will offer. They're going to look for something different than what South Dakota State's going to offer. So there's still, we're going to be, I think, just fine, but they'll be in position to be successful, I would.
Switching gears, but talking a little bit about that competition piece, you had an outstanding non-conference schedule to start the season. You touched on it a little bit. Those caliber games are not easy to get in a regular season, let alone in this time period, right? So tell me a little bit about the approach to scheduling and the ability to get those home and home contracts and how you've been able to do that, not only this year, but in the past.
Yeah, Coach Jewett our assistant coach, Mike, he did our scheduling for the longest time. And then this last year, we just moved some things around. And Megan Lewick, one of our other assistants, Coach Lewick now does scheduling. And she did it, starting last year and then, jumped into a COVID schedule, which, I don't know how you get ready for this. This has been a tough schedule, but she did a fantastic job. I would say from the months of, July through September, October, that's really when this year's schedule came together. We didn't know who we were even going to play until probably, as we got into middle of September into October. So I think with the COVID piece, there were just some teams like Iowa State, for instance. We did not have them on the schedule originally. I think COVID probably made them think a little differently. We've worked hard to get them in the past, and it just hasn't worked out. So that was probably, I'd say, not a benefit, but I'm saying the situation kind of aligned, so we're able to get them to play that game. On the other side, we were going to play Mississippi State. They're a top 20 team. We're going to go to their place. They're going to come back. That one didn't work out. Now we're in talks with them to maybe try and get something lined up for the following year. So we probably lost a couple good ones and gained a couple good ones. So that worked out good. Missouri State, some of those, I think. UNI, we weren't scheduled to play UNI, even though we'd played them in the past. It worked out where we could play them twice in 1 year. So, there was probably some wins and losses, I guess, of what we had to deal with in scheduling. But I would say this, scheduling is hard for us. There aren't a lot of teams that love playing South Dakota State or playing in Frost Arena, which is an incredibly tough place to play. But there are enough teams where we can do that. And our staff, Megan and Mike, have really worked hard to be patient to find the right games for us that help us with our, moving forward for postseason things, but just help bring a level of excitement to women's basketball, which helps us in recruiting, helps our fan base. I really appreciate the heck out of that. Next year we'll have Missouri State come to town. They're going to be fantastic. Kansas State will come back to town, others as well. But we'll always have as many of those quality kind of games that we can play and hopefully expose basketball in a real positive way to our fans and community.
You talked about Frost Arena and it being a tough place for opponents to play, but certainly a special place for you to play. We've had a couple of questions kind of about Frost Arena and the atmosphere this year, whether it be the new additions of the cutouts, which are fun, right? But just the limits on fans and kind of what that's been like for you and the team. I'm sure you go places where there are no fans. So what does Frost feel like? It's different. I mean, I've been, it's different.
Yep. Yeah, it is very different. It would be impossible not to say that. Very different, much quieter. These things are true, maybe corny too, but having the band back after Christmas, I can't tell you how much that's added to the experience, and having the cheer squad there, and they were not there in November and December. That has helped immensely. So we appreciate, those people doing that and coming to the games. We appreciate that people are coming. I talk to a lot of people, and everybody's kind of itching to get going and do something. So I think we're always going to have people that want to come to the games. But it has been, different. It's just quieter, it's not the same atmosphere. I think what I've learned over the years, whether it's, I like to go to concerts, music concerts. I just love doing that. And Lori, we both love to as many as we can. We love the shared experience of it. You're there, you're with people. It's kind of cool. It's something you talk about. Hey, do you remember we did it? I think games are somewhat like that too. Now, we've played some clunkers that aren't very fun and no one wants to talk about those over the years. I get that. But people that came to our Gonzaga game this year, that was a great game. And seeing Lindsay hit that game winner, not going to change anybody's life, but a fun shared experience that people got a chance to be a part of. And we've had a lot of those games over the years, and maybe we'll have more of those this year. So I just really appreciate that, even though it's a small number of people, getting people to be there and share those experiences is great. And I'll look forward to a time when more people can share in those, because that adds to the experience a lot.
Well, I think both from the fans who have gotten to go and those who haven't, yes, right? We want more people there if you're there. And so we look forward to the day when that happens. Last week, of course, the Summit League announced also that the tournament will happen both at the Pentagon and without fans. Certainly some schools in the league might welcome this news, but what was your reaction to the announcement? Was it kind of expected, or was it a surprise?
It was a surprise in that I had no idea. So, as coaches, it wasn't like we were a part of that or asking. So that, surprise in that regards, but just looking at, the environment of things, not surprising. If they are going to have a tournament, they've got to try and limit the exposures or contacts, and this is obviously the best way to do that. And from a facility standpoint, it's just, playing in an empty Premier Center is just probably not the best investment of money and everything. So, the Pentagon will be a great venue. We've played there before. It'll be very different not having fans. We've greatly benefited from our fans in Sioux Falls. It's another one of those kind of trips that people plan for. So you lose that kind of shared experience again. So it'll be an equal footing for everybody. I'm sure it'll be as much of a neutral site as possible. But I still think whatever the good teams are, they're going to be well positioned to do well down there. But number one, I want to play in front of our fans. That's always my goal. If we can't play in front of our fans, I'll play in front of anybody's fans, because that still adds to the atmosphere. But this is what it's going to be this year. We'll just have to make the most of it.
I will say, as someone who has been to some road games far away from this area, you do play in some situations where there aren't very many people there, and it is a very different environment when you're used to the Frost Arena experience, or in this case, the Summit League experience. So you're right. I mean, it does add to the game. It adds to the momentum of the game and just the energy, I'm sure, for the players. I'm sure they feed off of that. And your mention of the band is exactly right? Anything that kind of brings that feel to the game. So a game specific question. We have a question that came in from Becky and says, what can you do to help the team start out stronger in the first quarter? So a little bit sluggish start in a couple of games this last weekend. So what do you talk to them about to change that?
Yeah, each of these last two games were kind of specific things. One, Friday, we just didn't make many shots. I thought we had good looks, we just didn't make many. Saturday, we turned it over, way too much. So we had, made shots, but we just didn't have enough of them. So, those two games, I thought we were a little bit sluggish. Some of it had to do with Omaha. They just don't play at a very fast pace. Took us a little bit of time. Um, and so I don't get too, up or down based on any kind of specific games. But I would say as a whole this year, we still haven't started great. We haven't been down, but we haven't had a lot of big bursts. The Iowa State game is an example of coming out and being hot and ready to go. But a lot of other games have been, we've been solid. Um, we've talked about that, whether that's we're going to maybe run some things early. We haven't really run a lot of sets. We've been kind of in our motion, trying to feel out how teams are going to play. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Gives us a chance to kind of not just players, but even coaches settle into the game and see how are they going to play Peyton inside? How are they going to guard Maya? Are they going to double? Are they going to, and that way we can kind of see those things and hopefully get our arms around them. We've been really good in the second halves. I think we can talk about some things at halftime and make some of those adjustments that help us start a little better in that third and fourth quarter. But we'll see. There'll be some times where we need to have a better start. And does that mean we need to be a little more specific with some things early? Maybe it does, and we'll kind of look at that. But really, we look at those things over the course of the entire season, and yeah, I mean, I think that's an area we can consider as a way to improve.
We had another question come in from Ryan, and he's asking about where we're at on the Frost Arena update, and has this year pushed anything back? I'm not sure you can necessarily speak to that, but maybe speak to the difference that the practice facility has had. If you've got any updates on Frost, we'll take them, but I'm sure that practice facility has been really, really a big change for your program.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I don't have any updates on Frost Arena. I know probably the same as you, Andy. It's on everybody's mind of how to move that facility forward and really make that the special place that it always has been and enhance kind of a wonderful place. I know that's a goal and something that's important, but I don't know, at what point that's going to happen. But I would say, yeah, I mean, look at how, the football stadium, look at how the SJAC, look at how those things elevated those programs. You see football doing what they're doing. You see our running, track, field, those things have been elevated because of that. Our outdoor sports are elevated. So when Frost Arena moves forward, that'll elevate all the sports that compete in that facility without question. Just like our practice facility has helped us, elevate our program in a way that we couldn't do without it. There are young people out there right now that are so used to in basketball having private lessons and getting access to facilities, not just at their high schools, but fitness facilities, basketball facilities. It's just kind of an expectation that, hey, if I want to go shoot, there's a place for me to shoot. And most of those players probably wouldn't choose a college unless they had that same access to their own development. So just in the recruiting world, we wouldn't have some of the players we have today without that facility. There's no doubt in my mind. And then from a development piece, this semester is a good example. We have a couple days a week we practice a little earlier in the morning, 8-ish to 10-ish, and then we have a couple days we're in the afternoon, and that's because of class schedules. We can really allow our players to take classes when it works well for them, because we know we have a facility that we can use when we need to, rather than having a predetermined practice time that everybody had to fit a class schedule around. And then as far as the extra work too, our coaches can go down there and work with players, shoot with them. No, it's been fantastic, and it wasn't anticipated. But when we think of this spring having basketball go, wrestling go, volleyball go, all these other sports, trust me, we're going to use every gym we can to get everybody time. So yeah, it's been a real positive for all of our sports.
Yeah, it's been great. I haven't been going to the wellness center, but occasionally I would run into players before the practice facility, right? Just looking to go get some shots up, right? And it was a space where they could do that. So great new facility, very excited about that. You've fared fairly well so far on the COVID schedule shakeups. Once you've got a schedule established, you haven't had, knock on wood, haven't had canceled games and some of those kinds of things. But how do you prepare the team? I'm sure you've talked about that and what it would mean, or if that happens. So what's that process like?
Yeah, you're right. I think we can control ourselves, but we've been lucky because some of the teams we've played have had issues after the fact, so we just maybe caught them at the right time. We've had some COVID issues, but many of them were before the season, so we didn't have to deal with it as that was going on. So I think there's a combination of just luck. I mean, I don't know how else to say that, but then I think our team works really hard to minimize their risks too. So I think both of those things are happening. I think every team deserves some credit for that. Um, but we've talked about it's probably going to happen. So don't be surprised when it does. Don't let it derail any momentum that we have. If it comes up, we're going to use whatever that time is to find things that we can do to improve. And maybe that's time off, and we can use a little more rest. Maybe that's getting into the gym to work on some individual things. So we've kind of got some ideas and a plan for if those things come up. But we'll just have to see where it falls and who it's against. But we've been really fortunate so far to be pretty consistent this year.
So I noticed that Jump Shots with Jewett was not renewed for a second full season. And I am sure that is COVID related, getting filming restrictions placed on that program. However, the host is having a strong showing in half court shots this season. So who's the best half court shooter in the staff and who's the best half court shooter on the team?
Well, two things with Jump Shots with Jewel, we're still negotiating. We're competing against Netflix and Amazon Prime and
I'm sure
Hulu
you
and all
are.
of those things right now. So it's kind of touch and go on the contract side of things. I do think there'll be more Jump Shots with Jewett. I think that'll work out, and Mike's been good about not increasing his fees. As far as his half court shooting ability, for everyone that doesn't know, we always shoot a half quarter before and shoot around before our games. And over the years, we've done this for a long time. We keep track. So the team has an ongoing score and the coaches have an ongoing score. We remind them that they obviously have quite a few more shots. So it's difficult to look at numbers. We should be on a percentage basis here. But, this year, clearly the coaches have struggled mightily. And Coach Jewett has been our shining spot. I think he's made probably 4 of our 5 or 6, something like that. Yeah, we've been embarrassing. We've got some work to do. We've got Kristen Rodert on staff, former player, Macy Miller on staff. They do a lot of good things, but partly why they were brought in was their ability to make some half quarters, and they have not lived up to that part of their job responsibility. But it's been fun. There's days we'll get 2, 3, 4 in a row, and it's fun to watch it. And just been a fun little competition, I guess, over the years. Although we haven't won many of those competitions.
Well, only because of the numbers. Only because of
Really?
the numbers.
Absolutely.
Tim has a question. He says, congrats on 500 wins. Did you receive any surprising calls from other coaches after that? I did see that JD had a nice tweet about that situation, and that's really saying a lot about him because they were part of that, right? So
Yeah, shared experiences, I guess, not always in the way you want, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, I won't throw out any names, but yeah, we certainly get some emails from people in the coaching profession and that connect and probably see that and respect that. And yeah, so that's been great. I think the thing I've enjoyed most are the players. I've gotten a lot of texts from past players over the years, just well wishes or whatever, and that's been really cool because they're a part of that. They're a part of all of those wins, and most of them at some point, if they were here for 4 years, probably were a part of 100 wins because that's just kind of where our numbers have been. So each player that's graduated has played an awfully big part of those wins, and that's been fun to kind of connect with them and see that and make sure they understand that they're still really a big part of that. But yeah, no, that part was fun for sure.
So I want to go back to the coaching staff a little bit and have you just talk a little bit about the role that each of those people plays. You've mentioned a number of them, but talk a little bit about their specific responsibilities within the program and just kind of what they contribute or bring to the team, because I know that's really important.
Yeah, it is. And our staff has been fantastic over the years. Mike, Coach Jewett is our associate head coach, and coming up to a decade of time here at SDSU, that's an awfully big commitment and any job, but particularly our profession. And he certainly has the ability and talent to be a head coach, and maybe he will want to someday. And for him to be here is just a real gift for us. Mike handles all of our recruiting, so he does a lot of the coordinating of that process. We're all a part of it, but he organizes that piece of it. Also, he and Megan Lewick handle all of the defensive things with our team, and they do all of the scouting and kind of prepare us for our opponents and how we want to handle their screens and posts and whatever it might be. So they really, he and Megan head up that part of it and do just an awful lot there. Um, as I mentioned, Megan Lewick, now this is in her third year. She's been fantastic, really good, addition to what it is that we're doing. She's had some time at different places. She's from Minnesota. Those of you who don't know, she grew up in Winona, played at Minnesota Duluth. She's worked in some different places, spent a little time at Vanderbilt, Florida State, a couple of programs that, are in a little different conference. And Megan just brings a good perspective on the things that we just talked about. Krista Theobar, this is in her second stint with us. Chris has been a great assistant as well. She does a lot of recruiting. She's been great in that area. Started off here, I think, as a graduate assistant, then kind of director of operations and assistant, and then moved on and came back. Yeah, she's been a good addition. She works with a lot of the offensive things that we do here. Does a lot of player development, especially with all the perimeter players. Works with them on different skill things, shooting things. Big part of the recruiting and the offensive piece that I mentioned. And then Kristen and Macy. Kristen's our director of operations, and Macy's our graduate assistant. It's fun having past players, on staff. I think they understand our program. They're really passionate about it. I enjoy just getting to know them in a different way because, you always see that past player and somewhat as what they're like as a player, student athlete, I should say. It just feels fun to see them, in a different role and as a young adult. Impacting others and how they're kind of doing the same thing that we're doing as coaches and that value that they bring to our team. So yeah, it's a great group of people and they're highly involved in everything that we do and a big part of our success.
That's great. Thank you. And to follow on that, how's your family?
They're doing good. Yeah, Lori's doing great. And like I think I said before, kids, it's a third, second, and kindergarten now. So we've got our hands full. We've started some travel sports, whether it be soccer or, basketball and softball and baseball. And we got gymnastics going and we've got all kinds of different things. So yeah, we're busy. Lori is fantastic about things because obviously I'm bouncing around with basketball, but yeah, it's been fun to, kind of see their perspectives when they did that video for the 500 wins. I didn't really kind of watch it all. Those things are kind of embarrassing, I guess, for me. But at some point, there was a part put up there that I think it was in the conference tournament one year that we had won. I think I've got Dylan in one arm and a ball in the other. And he got a kick out of seeing that on the big screen. And so when I say, shared experiences, I certainly understand that my family, is a big part of all the things that we've done here. And that's an absolute shared experience. And we've, it's hard, I think, as a coaching family, because there's some things you miss. And I think Lori and I understand that. But the value of being a part of a coaching family, for us at least, far exceeds that. Our young, players are so great with our family, and they get a chance to be around a lot of young people, and it's been great for us. So we're doing good, and everybody's been healthy, and yeah, it's been positive.
Well, for those of you who don't get to Frost Arena very often, I think for a lot of times, the first couple of games of the season, you look at how much the Johnston kids have grown because we live near one another and I see them once in a while, but it does feel like there's, more than those months in between because they change so much. So it's good to see that.
Yeah, Dylan's technically he's 9, so we're all on the same page with that. And Lori are sitting there thinking, geez, he's halfway to 18, and so how quickly time goes by is really kind of I don't know. Every parent's gone through that, so they know. But I mean, we'll have to continue to wrestle with that. Dylan and I were playing. He wanted me to play a video game with him the other night, and I always thought of myself as a kid that grew up with video games and would be pretty good at them and be fun to play with your son. And so he asked me to play this video game, and we played one time, and then as soon as that got done, he kind of just walked away nicely. But I said, "Hey, bud, I thought we were still playing." And he goes, "Well, Dad, don't take this the wrong way, but you're one of those people that just die right away all the time, so it's not as much fun to play with you." I just started laughing. I thought, well, you're right, but you didn't need to say that to me, buddy. So I've got some work to do to live up to his video game standard. That's for sure.
Video games have changed quite dramatically since we were kids, in your defense, right? So.
Too many buttons on the controllers. I had an A, a B, an up and a down, and now I've got like L1, 2, and I've got 2 joysticks, and yeah, I'm lost on video games. But
I was an Atari kid, so I literally had one button and a joystick. So
yeah,
nothing, right? So
yeah, so I've got some
We're coming close to the end of our time, and AJ has agreed to try out. We're going to do a little bit of rapid fire drill. So we're going to shoot some quick questions at him and see how he does. It's not timed like at Frost Arena. I don't need you to come up with, like as many names of cereal as you can or whatever, but we'll go through this and see how it goes. So what is your least favorite household chore?
Oh, cleaning.
Everything?
Yes, and yeah, Lori makes it clear what my role is. I just maybe don't accept it as well as I probably should.
How do you like your steak?
Steak? Oh, I'm a medium well person. Yeah, I like it to be done. Yeah.
Did you ever have a bad haircut as a kid?
I still have them every day, not from my person in town. I just have a bad head of hair. I've got colics like here on top and back behind me. So poor person that cuts my hair, I think every time I walk in is just disheartened because there's just really not much you can do with it. I did have a mullet at one point when I was not an exceptional one, but at the time it was kind of the cool thing to do. So when I was in high school at one point, I had some long hair back here that started to kind of curl and bounce around.
I think that Jackrabbit Nation would appreciate seeing that. So just
Yeah.
throwing that out there, I'll give Lori a call maybe, and for an upcoming birthday, she can share that. I think no one would complain about seeing that.
Yeah, I probably would. No one except me. Yeah.
You mentioned enjoying to go to concerts. I feel like this is the right group for you. Favorite Dave Matthews song?
Oh, favorite Dave Matthews song. I could go on and on and on about him. I just always have liked Ants Marching is one of his most popular ones. There's some eclectic ones that I really like, but that's one that's always a good upbeat, kind of gets you going and kind of jumping around. I do like my favorite probably song to see him play live. He does a cover of Bob Dylan's song All Along the Watchtower. So when I go live, if they play that song, ooh, that's the one that I'm probably most there to see because I get the best of both worlds right there.
What motivates you?
Oh, I think, just trying to bring people together and do the very best. That's what this is all about. That's what this job is. And I think that's the thing I like to kind of focus on.
What was your favorite subject in school?
I was a math person. I liked kind of cut and dry, definitive answers. Yeah, that was important to me and probably still is kind of how my mind is wired.
Favorite ice cream from the dairy bar?
Well, I'm a cookies and cream person. Yeah, I like things that are vanilla-ish with some chocolate feel to them. That's what I like with ice cream.
What is the last book you read?
Well, unfortunately, Harry Potter with Dylan. I don't know if that's quite what you're looking for, but we just got through book number 1 here in the last couple of days. So he and I have started book 2 in Harry Potter, but that's the one that we've most recently read together.
Do you take turns reading?
We do. Yeah, we do. They're all good readers. It's so fun to hear them kind of do that. And yeah, little JC as a kindergartner, she's grinding through books. And as every young one is, she is competitive with her brothers and sisters. And because they can do something, she's going to do it. So she's very determined, but that's fun to do.
Morning person or a night owl?
I'm probably both. I don't, I sleep fine, but I'm kind of up bouncing around and then I'll stay up and get some work done too after everybody else winds down, I would say.
Mini golf or real golf?
Oh, real golf. Yeah, real golf. I enjoy playing. Lori enjoys playing. If we had time, we could probably play every day and enjoy it. And one of those couples that can play together and enjoy it, which is a really good one too.
Favorite place on campus?
I always, and I haven't with the weather, but I like to walk. I'll take a little circle or lap around campus a lot just when I get time during the day. I always go over and walk by the campanile. I just think that's kind of, the heartbeat of campus. And that's what you see as one of the real symbols of kind of who we are. And that kind of takes me over in your neck of the woods, which is beautiful now, by the way. And so that's probably the place I like to go to. And that's why I walk over there.
Favorite player you've ever coached?
Oh,
Just
I can't
kidding.
answer that one. The thing I've enjoyed about coaching people is just seeing how much, for lack of a better word, fight or resiliency that they can have. And we've had so many players that have had to show that in a variety of ways. That's the quality that I think I admire most in coaching, is just seeing how much somebody can really pursue something and the adversity they go through to get there.
Well, thank you very much for indulging us. Our team came up with those questions and we'll try it again next month when Tyler Merriam is our guest. But again, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you all for joining us, and have a great day.